Well, welcome to the Tent of Meetings series, everyone, again. And we're going to really get some meat in today's topic, because I'm going to take you from what we've dealt with the last messages, and today we're going to cross over that fateful borderline in the middle of your Bibles and go into the New Testament. And we're finding out in this series that there is no borderline in the Bible. That was added by the translators. You have one Bible, it goes from Genesis to Revelation. Jesus showed right up on time, and he sealed the covenant God started in the Garden of Eden. So we're going to get a little different on this today. And I'm going to share with you, if we do the tent of meeting, which is the core of our covenant with God, and we now are learning to do it more through Christ because he brought the revelation of it. We are not stuck with what Moses was stuck with. We now have a revelation of what the tent of meeting is all about, so that we can do it in the Spirit. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So I'm going to have Star read a few scriptures to start off with, so that you understand, get a flavor for if this covenant is our covenant, and there's not some other covenant that threw this one away, then what do we do with it? We have to learn the tent of meeting and the power of the tent of meeting. So come on up and read. First, we're from Exodus chapter 24, verses 9 through 11.
Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up, and they saw the God of Israel.
They did what?
They saw the God of Israel.
They saw him.
Yes.
Okay.
And there was under his feet, as it were, a pavement of sapphire stone, like the very heaven for clearness.
Now, there was under whose feet?
God of Israel.
They saw God's feet.
On the stone.
On the stone.
Yes.
How many men saw God?
70.
Plus Moses and Aaron and two other funky named guys, right?
73. Oh,
4.
74, okay.
You can add, I trust you.
No, I can't.
74 guys saw God on the mountain. Now, a lot of times we read this. I was raised in a Baptist church and then other churches, and there's lots of stories. Don't go too far. There's lots of stories about all this stuff in the Old Testament that makes great stories. I had a book, a big one, that my mom read Bible stories to me as a child. Moses was one of my favorite characters. But in your brain, in the religious setting, you're viewing this as a story. This happened back then, way cool. You're not taught that that is supposed to be the way you live today. And that's what we're teaching in this series. So here you have 74 men, they were 70 elders of Israel, that went up the mountain, they went into the cloud, and they saw God. If you go to most churches today and ask people and talk to them, what do you believe about God and him manifesting himself to you? And I mean, is it possible for you to actually look at his feet? What kind of answers are you going to get? So that's why we have to look meticulously at beginning with lesson number 1 and understanding the word kainos and neos, because nowhere in the Bible does it call the covenant I live in a brand spanking new covenant, and the old one is gone. It does not occur in the Bible. We're going to go over to the next one. This is just a little recap today. Talk about Exodus 24, 15 through 18.
Then Moses went up on the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And on the 7th day he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the people of Israel. And Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain.
So here's a couple keys I'm going to pass along to you, and this will occur in your personal experience with God when you get to this place. Moses went up to the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. Remember, we've talked about the cloud. God wraps himself around in thick darkness. Okay? The glory of the Lord settled down on the mountain. So you have always the cloud, the manifested presence of God, you feel in your body, and you have the glory, the manifested glory of God, which you see with your eyes. And we've taken so many scriptures up to this point about that. You should be able to be putting these puzzle pieces together now. So the cloud comes down, the glory appears, and covered the mountain, and then it says, and on the 7th day God called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Remember, we talked about Jesus going into his tent of meeting experience, and the cloud settled them over above them, overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud. So you're beginning to see this is Bible precedent. This is Bible doctrine. This is the way God works. This is the way we as children of God work. The cloud comes down, the glory manifests, and God talks to you out of the cloud. These are little small pieces. That's all over the Bible, including with Jesus. He demonstrated it. Then it says, the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire. We're going to read that in multiple places in the Bible. So get a picture of that devouring fire around you is how it looks. The Bible actually tells you how it looks. That's pretty blunt, isn't it? So Moses, here's another key. When you're with God and you get to walking like this and you see the glory begin to come around you like that fiery cloud, and you feel that presence and the thickness, remember the word thickness, laden, heavy, flour sacks on your shoulder. Okay, when you feel that, what did Moses do? Moses entered the cloud. I'm just pointing out little keys. Instead of reading over this stuff, let's look at what it's teaching us. So when the cloud comes down, when I set apart aside to get with God, I make sure to go into the cloud because that's where God is. Just a key. Exodus 40 and 34. I'll just read it. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Remember, that's what we're talking about, is the tabernacle experience. And when Moses set up the tabernacle way off out far from camp, God told him to call it the tent of meeting. We're about to read that. But we were talking about the tabernacle. The reason we need to know that is because the New Testament keeps it going right on, talks about entering the tabernacle. This doesn't go away. So let's go to... There's a lot of scriptures here, so I'm just feeding through this with you. Normally we don't read so much text. Leviticus 9:23. And Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting, and when they came out, they blessed the people, and the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. So is this something that you're beginning to understand is supposed to happen on a continual basis? I mean, every book in the Bible, people are having a tent of meeting, the cloud comes down, the glory appears. God talks. If you just did those three things, a search through the Bible on the cloud descends, the glory appears, and God spoke out of the cloud, you'd find so many scriptural references it would take you 4 months to go read them all. That's the way we are supposed to walk. Now, I'm going to share a story with you based on all that. And then we're going to go way up in the New Testament, and we're going to find out where this whole, everything we just read is precedented, detailed, refined, and you get an example of how this lives in New Testament life. So I'll just give you a little story that's really nice, because I've taken a lot of years to learn this. And God has taken me up the mountain and taught me what he taught Moses, because I found it, chose to believe it, so therefore God could do it with me and show up like this for me. So I was in the ministry full-time, out teaching and doing this, and it became normal to me. And I thought everybody should just be living like this. I thought that was normal for everyone. It's not. But I was focused on doing what I knew and saw to do. And I had teachings in my home on Saturday nights, and I would be before the presence of God in the tent of meeting and come out and be before the people and teach them what God said to teach them. And the glory of the Lord would appear. So this was an ongoing thing. And one of the people that came to the teachings was a young lady who was studying to be a doctor, Caroline Campbell. Caroline, if you're out there, email me. I want to know what God's doing with you. She played guitar for us and led our worship on Saturday nights. This was in Memphis, Tennessee. By the way, Caroline, I kept my word about Elijah. Private message there. So Caroline would show up and play, and God would move, and it was a beautiful time. Well, she called me one time in the middle of the week, and the stress and the pressure of medical school, I'm glad I'm not a doctor. So she calls and she said, when I enter your house, it is so filled with this cloud of peace. She said it just all goes away from me and I can rest. She said, could I please come over and just lay down in your house? I said, sure. Well, back then, I was learning this kind of tent of meeting with God, and I wasn't taking it as seriously as I needed to. In other words, I knew the reality of the cloud. I knew to go into the Spirit and look around and let God show me things, and the angels come by. To me, that's normal. But I didn't connect the dots with other things that the Bible teaches us about this space. That it's very powerful, it's very private, it's very dangerous to other people to just walk into it. That's why Jesus took the disciples only a certain place to the garden. He liked the Garden of Gethsemane for his place of meeting with God. And he would leave them there, and he'd take Peter, James, and John a little farther, maybe over the next knoll. And then he'd say, okay, far as you can go. This is it. And he would go on into the garden and do tent of meeting, because of the wisdom he knows about that space. The more spiritually in tune you get with the spirit world around you, the more you can handle the tent of meeting and stand up and see God. And if you're not at all spiritually in tune, there's a possibility you go straight to the ground and die. That's a physical truth we learn in the Bible. So I didn't think about that. I'm sure, come over, Caroline. And so I'm busy pacing around my living room and listening to God and being halfway in the Spirit and the clouds coming down. And back then, it wasn't near as strong as it is now. God was teaching me. See, it's like having grace and mercy upon me, because I have to learn. I learned to swim when I was a child, 10, 12 years old. I'm glad they didn't just go over to the high dive and dump me in and say, now we're going to teach you how to swim. They start over here where it's, this deep. And you get comfortable there, then you go this deep. And you get comfortable there, and you get up to here. But then okay, this is fun. Then you go there, and it's way over your head. So that's the way God will teach you anything, whether it's healing, faith, or how to walk like this. So I was in the middle of the pool about that time. I was experiencing the great glory of the cloud, but I wasn't plugged into all the details. So she came into the house, and she just kind of sank. And she just, whoa, that feels way good. She didn't understand I had a tent of meeting going on. I didn't connect that I needed to keep this space private. I was learning. And so she went and laid down on the couch. And some of what I do is just pace around. So I'll go through the living room and then the dining room, and I come back through the den. So I was looking down the hallway to the bedroom area, come back through the hallway into the living room, just listening and watching the spirit world and having the angels talk to me and just having what I consider to be a normal day in God. And I did this Monday through Friday, and then deliver what God said to the people Saturday. And so here she is laying on the couch, and I come through my second pass into the living room. And she says to me, she sat up, and she says, whoa, whoa. She's looking around, and I'm looking at her, and she says, well, I can't take this. I got to go somewhere else. And then light bulbs, Oh, I didn't think. And I said to her, I said, you can feel this, huh? She goes, yeah, whatever it is. And so I said, I got it now. God, I got it. I know the tangibility of the manifested presence, but I just didn't plug it in to how it would feel on other people. So I said, well, come on down the hall, and let's put you in a little bedroom down here at the end of the hall. She said, okay. And so she went to the end of the hall. There was a bedroom, and the master bedroom was over here. But the little bedroom at the end of the hall was a little tiny one, and that was my bedroom to go into whenever it got so thick that I couldn't stand up. And it did that with Moses. There were scriptures we will read later where the cloud was so thick Moses can't stand up. So what happens was, I didn't tell her that when it gets so thick and I can't keep going, I go into that bedroom. There's a little bitty, what do you call them, single beds, and I lay down and just pass out in God and then rest. Here's what you learn. When God shows himself to you, and he manifests himself on this side, And that's why he gave me the name From the Other Side. That's the website for you to know. FromTheOtherSide.org. He gave me that name because I experienced the other side. What I teach comes from there, not from here. And so when he does that, this is a key for down the road when we start talking about the glory. When he manifests his presence over here, which has the glory of the Lord manifested in it, it's bright little flashy, beautiful, well, it says right here what it appears like is a consuming fire. It doesn't go back.